Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead, and we have this little special edition of I don't know what we're going to call this, a podcast, video, what have you. You might be listening to us, you might be watching us, but very special guest covering a fun little card that from a track that maybe sometimes doesn't get the love that it deserves. Out in the Mid Atlantic area, Laurel Park. I know my friend Mark, Mr. Two Turns himself, is a big fan of Laurel Park. Not really, but our friend Murphy, Greg, he's got horses out there all the time. He loves to bet Laurel, so I'm sure he is going to be very interested in this. And have a nice special guest, Mr. John Piassek. John, how are you doing?
I am doing great, Josh. Thank you so much for having me on. I love spreading the good word about Maryland Million. It's pretty much our Breeders' Cup here in the Maryland area, so I've been looking forward to this. The way most racing fans look forward to the Breeders' Cup.
Nice. Why don't you tell the people a little bit what you do here, John?
So pretty much, I am the patron saint of the Maryland Breds. I do communications over at the Maryland Horse Breeders. So I help oversee our social media, all of our newsletters, all of our different promotions, and help spread the good word about what's going on with Maryland Breds, both in Maryland and nationwide. A lot of big stuff going on. Of course, this week, with it being Maryland Week, currently have our silent auction going on right now, benefiting the Maryland Horse Foundation. Go to our Twitter page and you'll find a link and bid on all that good stuff. Bidding closes on Monday, the 16th. And I also go around and talk about any prominent Maryland breds or Maryland bred races. And of course, this is a big day. It's 12 races, 8 of them stakes and 4 starter handicaps, all from Maryland sired horses. Not Maryland breds, Maryland sired. Everybody in these races was sired by a stallion standing in Maryland. So it's a good way of shedding a light on our breeding industry and giving a lot of stallions who don't always get in the spotlight some love.
Yeah, nice. I think state bred stuff is always very interesting. You see a bunch of sires that maybe you're not super familiar with. Sometimes if you kind of go back another one, right, you see you see pulpits and tappets and all other kinds of big name sires, and their progeny that are a little lesser known on the breeding side, get featured in these state bred races. So I thought this was a fun little card. Humongous fields. So if you are a big fan of just sitting here and handicapping 12, 13, 14 horse fields and AEs and everything, I think it's a very challenging card. I think we're going to kind of just jump right in here to race 11, the Maryland Million Classic here. It's $150,000 purse here for Maryland bred or Maryland sired, like you said.
Maryland Breds can draw in. Field drops below 8, Maryland sired horses can draw in. So like in this race, if anybody scratched out of the main body, super accelerated, who's a Maryland bred, not Maryland sired, could draw in. But in the nursery, which we'll talk about later, and AE can't draw in unless there's a certain amount of scratches. So just so everyone's aware, and nobody's like, oh my god, like why are there AEs in an 11 horse field? That's why.
Yeah, that's good to know. I was a little curious. I was like, I know Maryland's got a big enough gate for more than 8, so that definitely makes some sense here. But yeah, you got 8 horses drawn in. You got a couple of AEs, and it looks like you're drawn into the field. Your favorite's going to be the 9-5 on the 2 double crown here. But John, where did you kind of land here?
Well, I hate to start off the show picking Shock, but I did end up with Double Crown on top. He's the son of Anchor and Hope Farms, Bourbon Courage, Real Hard Knocking Sword for Lynn Cash's Built Red Stables and trainer Ray Gintu. Made 14 starts last year, including a win in the Kelswood Aqueduct. 13 starts this year, and he kind of has a rep as being an inconsistent sword. But if you take out the races where he really didn't belong, like he tried the Charlestown Classic, that didn't work out. Tried some grass starts, that didn't work out either. Take out those races and only look at his starts against lower level stakes horses or upper class allowance horses. He always runs big races. I mean, he won the Polynesian against a pretty nice field last time out, closed very well and won going away. Ran some big figures on this track earlier in the summer, had a solid third back in mid-July, going one turn, kind of been, I guess, kind of about his distance. However, he stretched out around 2 turns of time after that, won by a length. In fact, if you take out those bad races, he's run a Brisnatch figure in the 90s 4 times in his last 5 starts, and nobody else in the field can really do that. I think the way this race is going to play out is all threes is going to go to the front. He'll back up, and as long as Double Crown makes his usual move, he's going to be pretty tough to hold off.
Yeah, I kind of saw it the same way as you here. I'm not a huge fan of taking all this chalk, but if we kind of just look here, I'm going to cross out the AEs, which is the 11, the 10, the 9. And if you kind of look at it here, you got an E7, you got an E8, you got an E8, you got an E5. You got a lot of speed, I think, in this race. So I really think that it is going to set up for Double Crown. If Double Crown shows up with even, I think, a B effort in this spot, I think that he's going to be very tough to beat. I will say one other horse that I did give a look to was the 8 Loose Ends here for Cathal Lynch here and William Humphrey riding. On speed figures is going to need to improve a little bit, but it is only a 4-year-old. So coming into the end of his 4-year-old season and has a bit of an upward trajectory here if you look at the Brisnatch speed figures. So I think this might be one that if the pace does get hot and is able to get a bit of pace to run into, I think if you kind of look at that last race, was 8th by 6 3/4 lengths from the start and closed in very nicely. The 3rd place winner coming back to win out of that race. So is stepping up in class, is stretching out, but 10-1 on the morning line, and I think has got the right run style to maybe pull an upset here. So I have Loose Ends written down as a B, and I have a Double Crown here as my lone A.
Yeah, I had Loose Ends 3rd in my official analysis. He's a son of Country Life's Divining Rod. I've had my eye on him for quite a while as he's been hanging around the Mid-Atlantic at both Parks and Delaware. It's his 2nd ever start at Laurel. As you noted, he's on an upward path. He had to sustain a move for a pretty long time in his last start. As you said, he kind of made a move into the teeth of the pace, kind of rounding the far turn. Thought he was going to be able to kick by. He really had to fight on, though. Did fight on and won by 3 parts of a length. Ran big. I thought 2 starts back as well. Ran on nicely. Got up a 2nd. As you said, I mean, he's running these ascendant figures. He's really starting to round back into form since taking a brief break earlier in the spring. I'm not quite sure if his ceiling is good enough to beat Double Crown, as he kind of runs in that same, upper 80 speed figure range, and he really hasn't broken through in the 90s in a while. But anything can happen, and if Double Crown, it's just not his day. Maybe he doesn't handle the track, which could end up being wet. And the pace melts down. I mean, Loose Ends is a fine alternative.
Yep, and definitely bred, I think, for the distance. By Divining Rod, who's a son of Tappet on the top, and then you got a Giant's Causeway mare on the bottom. So definitely distance top and bottom there. So might be one that appreciates the stretch out, as kind of seen in that 1 mile race last time out. So. Anything else on this race you want to touch on?
So I ended up picking Market Maven 2nd for Jamie Ness. 1 or 2 Jamie Ness horses in here. He's run very good figures in each of his last few starts. I think he'll get a nice trip off the pace, covered up on the inside, and he'll get at least first run at the leaders if they falter.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with Market Maven. I was afraid that he might just be a pace casualty. I think of the speed horses, he's the one I like the most. Drawn inside. There's no rider listed on the Brisnet PPs, so I don't know if they're still looking for somebody or kind of what's going on there. But or maybe they're just playing the scratch. I don't know. But yeah, Market Maven was probably of the speeds the one I like the most.
Yeah, and the other Jamie Ness horse, Out Nation on Parade, I do want to note he would become the sixth horse ever to win back-to-back Maryland Classics. The others, Timely Warning, Algar, Docent, Ain't Too Fast to Catch, and Asmo's War Chest. So the more you know.
Nice. All right, we're gonna kind of just work backwards here. So race 10 here, the Maryland Million Distaff going 7 furlongs here, 100K up for grabs. And this is similar to the last race, right? This is going to be, is this Maryland breds here?
So all
Or is
Maryland
this
side.
Maryland
All the
side?
stakes are
Okay.
Maryland side. The
Okay.
starter handicap are Maryland bred or Maryland side, but stakes are just Maryland side.
Awesome. So for this one, viewers of the show know how much I'm a big fan of speed. And we have a what I would call a 3 cherry horse here in the number 8 response time for Hamilton Smith, Jirian Barbosa riding here. Won a nice race at Timonium last time out. Not one you see all the time here on PPs. But kind of looking through this race at the horses that kind of drew in, really seems to be the only E-type here. Is written down as an E7. Has got the second fastest E1 and E2 speed. The only one faster is the 10. Feel the Spirit, which is your 2-to-1 favorite here. But she's drawn out in the parking lot. And I'm getting a horse that's drawn a little bit more to the inside, one who's shown just as much, if not more, speed and more propensity to kind of get up front and get into the lead. And you got a rider who really knows this horse, has ridden this horse numerous times. So yeah, I'm gonna go with response time. I have this as a lone A, and I have nobody else in this race. I'm gonna ride with the E7 here, the 8 response time. John, where did you kind of land?
I'm in the same boat as you, and I think this to me is the marquee race of the day. You got Response Time, who's been a great horse locally. You got number 10, who you mentioned, the reigning Maryland Red Horse of the Year. You got Luna Bell, the other Ham Smith horse in this race. Went on that big winning streak back in early 2022, and makes her first start since finishing up the track in last year's Black Eyed Susan. She's had a few setbacks since then. Finally got back on the work tab in early August and has been primed for this race. I was kind of hoping she'd get a prep in between, but she did not. So, and because of that, actually, I think it makes it a better betting race because Luna Bell, based on her name value, she has a lot of fans out there. People are going to bet her, and I really don't think she has that great a chance to win, with all due respect to her connections, of course. So I am going to take a shot against this daughter of Great Notion, who stands at Northview, and I am, as I mentioned, in the same boat as you with Response Time. She was bred by Country Life Farm, who also stands her sire, Mosley. She ran a lot of big races on this track earlier this winter. Won 3 or 4, beat a lot of nice horses along the way. And if there had been a Maryland Million Distaff future book, one does not exist unless you want to book bets with me. But if there was, I probably would have bet her. I mean, she was in very sharp form, ran very sharp figures, got some time off after a very dull effort in the Ivy Stakes back in mid-March, where she was the odds-on favorite, and she's been slowly rounding back into form ever since. I really like that win back at Timonium in the Distaff. Now you mentioned she's one of the main speeds. The only other horse I think could maybe run with her early is the 5, Malibu Beauty, a 3-time stakes winner last year, and Response Time outran Malibu Beauty early in the Timonium Distaff. Response Time was running the pace, kicked away late, held Malibu Beauty at bay, and won by a length and a quarter, running A career best figure on the Brisnet scale, and B, right around where she was running over the winter. So she's right back into peak form. I think she is going to prove tough to catch on the lead. Fetus Brie, a 5-time stakes winner last year, 10-time stakes placed, have to respect her quite a bit. But she's only raced once since the Barbara Fritchie back in mid-February. That was pretty much an exhibition race on opening day of the Laurel Park meet. Did what she had to do, but only had to beat 2 other horses. Nonetheless, she loves this track. She's extremely classy. She has great middle speed. And so while I picked response time on top, if Fetus Brie won, it would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, maybe I'm just trying to get too cute in here, trying to fade some of the other short prices. But when I see a lone E7 and a lone E type here, I got to bet it, and I gotta stay on brand here, John. So I'll stay with my single there.
You all got our brands, all got our styles.
All right, race 9 here, the Maryland Million Nursery Stakes, 100K for 2-year-olds. We're going to be going 6 furlongs here. John, where did you kind of land?
So we got a nice big field here, 12 of them in the group. And as I mentioned, those 2 AEs can only draw in if there's a certain amount of scratches. So I don't think Brendan Walsh is going to send morning line favor Call Me Andy all the way from Kentucky on a prayer, but I guess we'll see. My top pick ended up being number 6, Kohlers, a son of the late Bandbox based at Parks. I really liked his debut race. He chased the pace, ended up a very solid second. We had a huge speed figure that day behind Notice of Action, who came back to win the Prince Lucky Stakes on Pennsylvania Derby Day at Parks. Kohlers also ran on Pennsylvania Derby Day in a maiden race. He got involved in a 3-prong speed duel. Ended up holding pretty well. Finished third. His figure did decline a little bit, but it's still a lot better than anybody else in this field has been running. I like that Abner Adorno's coming in for the mount. I like the fact that this horse has a lot of early speed. I like the fact that he's running well on an off track of 4. And I like that he's getting blinkers. I think that tells me Service's plan is go, go, go. He's already shown some speed in the past. I think if he gets to the rail and the lead in the opening 8th, he'll be tough to catch.
Yeah, I really like Kohlers in this spot. I had 3 horses kind of written down as A's. 2-year-old stakes races, I think, are always a bit of a crapshoot sometimes. How many times have we seen these big name 2-year-olds that are, so and so's fastest horse in the barn, and then they come, they have an impressive maiden win, they come back, and they face a big field in a stakes race, and all of a sudden, they either regress or they don't improve how you think.
Midnight strikes, if you will.
Yeah, and so I'm a little bit more spread in this race. So Kohlers, I thought totally made a ton of sense in here. Is a maiden coming into this race, but they saw fit to go from state bred into open company last time, and regressed a little bit. I don't know how much that was, the sloppy ground, although this horse is bred for the slop. But this was just kind of, I think just coming out of some tougher races here, and even with the regression, I think that both those races are super competitive in this field. Just to Kohlers' inside, the 5, Blame the Tux here for Carla Morgan. Coming off of a maiden win at Colonial on the turf, and is now basically going from turf to dirt here. If you look at that last race, the running pattern is kind of interesting. Broke like a rocket, grabbed the lead by 2 lengths, and then kind of just came back to the field, got past, and then ended up finishing strong and winning by a length and a quarter. I kind of attribute that to a 2-year-old being green. And I always love to see that, a green horse that still ends up winning, because at least it shows potential, shows that the horse can maybe move forward off that. If you just look at the running styles, you got a little baby Z pattern there. So I think that, hey, if this is a green horse that ran a nice winning effort on debut, got headed, and then fought back and won. I love to see that in 2-year olds. Horses that show a little bit of grit, horses that pass other horses. And yeah, so Blame the Tux definitely, looking at that last running line, was one that definitely interested me. And then my other horse was all the way on the outside. Well, not all the way on the outside, but close to the outside here. The 11, Foolproof. And no, it's not just because I love Foolproof bourbon. I thought that this was another interesting horse, that came from a state bred maiden, into open company, maiden claiming. But I would probably say that that's probably equal. You're state bred to an open maiden claimer, and yeah, just went wire to wire there, for Angel Cruz and Richard Silliman there. So I thought that this was another one. Hey, this might just be your speed. It's outside drawn. Probably only has one way to go, and that's forward. And that last race, that was a nice big figure run at this distance at this track. So I'd like to see that. A horse that's got a nice run over the track. So I like the 11 a bit, the 6 and the 5. I mean, if you made me pick one, I would probably go with the 5, based off the morning line number. But we'll see what betting looks like on this race.
Yeah, you and I are on pretty similar pages. I also want to give some love to number 4, Catahoula Moon by Northview's Golden Lad, trained by Jerry Robb with the X-Man up. He's improved with every start. We ran a nice race, I thought, last time out against Open First Level Company. We ran a solid second behind an odds-on choice, and he's shown nice tactical speed. So if horses like Foolproof, like Kohlers, like Kings River on the inside, if they all can't last in the lead and they end up kind of burning each other out, Catahoula Moon is going to be in the captain's seat.
Awesome. And then the last race we're going to cover today, it's going to be race 8, the Maryland Million Turf Sprint, 100K for 3-year-olds and up here, going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And yeah, I had a tough time with this race. I think your morning line favorite, the 5, Witty. I believe we were talking a little bit before the stream. Half to Caravel. So I'm sure this is going to be a very well backed horse. Has run obviously very, very strong figures here, going anywhere between 6 furlongs and 5 furlongs. A little concerned, I think, for me, that you just kind of have this regression on the speed figures, at least on the Brisnet side, where it just seems like last time did win the Benz Cat, but seems to kind of be going the wrong way speed figure wise. I don't know if that's from just shortening the horse up. I don't know if obviously speed figures are kind of, like there's science behind it, there's math behind it, but sometimes they just don't match up, with the effort. So I kind of I had 2 other horses that I liked. The 3, Synergy Star here, for Kenneth Cox. My friend Chase, the Wolf of Oak Lawn, and I always love to see Mr. Fergal Lynch riding on the turf. I think we used to call him the Lord of the Turf,
Yep.
because he used to just show up. He used to show up just like random places in Kentucky. I think maybe it was Kentucky Downs. He would show up every once in a while and just ride a turf horse, and it's just he just Fergal some people there, but. Is coming off some really 3 really nice races. 2 on the dirt, and optional claimers, and then finished second by a neck in a state bred stakes at Colonial here. If you look at the work tab, fired a bullet last time out, and seems to be working pretty well, since that last effort there. And this pressing trip is one that I always really like for turf sprinters. He's inside, so there might be a little bit of question if he's going to get a bunch of trouble with a large field here. But I trust Fergal to kind of work out a trip here. I think he's going to sit just off, and coming if he's sitting 2.5, 3 lengths off. I think he's got a shot here to close into to a bit of pace here. And then the other horse I liked was posted a little bit further to the outside, the 11 Commanding General here for Faith Wilson. This horse is 30-1 on the morning line. Um, and just kind of looking back at that Monmouth race 3 back, that was really the race that kind of piqued my interest, because those are some serious pace figures up front. And I don't know if there are a lot of horses in this race that can put up those types of pace figures here on the turf. So really interested to see, I mean, put up some really wicked pace figures there, and finished third by 2 lengths, at 40-1. Kind of got bet the next couple times off, I think, that effort. But, coming back here, there just doesn't seem to be a ton of speed in here. We're kind of looking down. I mean, you don't see anything above a 5 on the Kieran speed points. So it does tend to make me think, hey, let's look at something that's going to be a little bit more forwardly placed. And I think of the speed horses, Commandeering General is probably the one that piqued my interest the most. What about you, John? Where did you kind of land?
I looked at Commanding General a little bit, and I like his thought process with him, especially in a race like this with two horses, Witty and Sky's Not Falling, who won this race last year and came in 1-2 in the Benz Cat, are going to take a lot of money. My thing about Witty, another son of Great Notion, is that, as you can tell by all the 2s in his lines, he loves coming in second. He ran 7. In his first 7 starts of the year, he came in second 5 times. And going into the Benz Cat, I was telling people, if he's ever going to win a race, it's going to be that one, because he looked so much the best on paper. It was pretty much a do or die spot, and he did it, but he just barely got there, and his figure regressed quite a bit. So he pretty much ran back to his competition, which is a little bit concerning. He probably should have won that race by a lot more than he did. So I'll try to fade him. I picked Synergy Star on top, another Great Notion, for the reasons that you mentioned. I really liked the way he closed last time out at Colonial behind Determined Kingdom, a nice local veteran. Boyce Vogel, as I see firsthand a lot, knows how to ride him on the grass. I also picked number 14, When I Get to Heaven, in the mix, the other Mike Trombetta horse, if you will, with Sky's Not Falling being his main squeeze. He has nice tactical speed. He's run pretty steady figures all year. I'm not too concerned about the outside draw horse like him. If anything, I think it would be worse if he was somewhere in the middle, because he'd have a greater risk of being squeezed at the start or in the opening 8th. Here, at least he'll have a clear path to his outside. He'll have a clear path of crossing over and hopefully getting that trip in the 2 path that he wants. He's already won on this track. He should have won earlier this year on the track, on this track, but his jockey, as you can see in the comment lines, misjudged a finish line, much to my dismay, because I bet on him that day. Was a nice 4 at Colonial all year long. Kind of flattened out last time in the Meadow Stable, but did run it and improve speed figure. Think he at least has to be mentioned for the underneath spots.
Nice. Well, yeah, I think that's going to do it for us here, John. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your love for obviously the Maryland Bred program, for all of our viewers, and I know, hey, like, unlike a couple of some other people, I think the people who watch our show really watch because they want to bet. They're bettors, and I think when you get fields like this, it's always great to pay attention. I know Laurel has made some, or Maryland has definitely made some strides with lower takeout wagers, specifically on the pick 5s and stuff like that. So, always great to find low takeout places to kind of to bet, because some of these places they're raising takeout when they don't need to. So, John, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at a personal account is at They're Off. If you want to know what's going on with Maryland Breds, at Maryland TB, and it's also that handle on Instagram, Maryland Thoroughbreds on Facebook as well. So if want to stay caught up on all things Maryland bred and all things Maryland Milling Day, because we'll have live coverage on Saturday, be sure to check us out.
Awesome. And obviously, you guys can find us on thewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I'm at Cherry Drank. And we will catch you guys later.